This man was having sex with you while you were asleep.
Started to take the prenatal pills or whatever. Birth control again. I broke out into a bad rash. So my doctor told me to stop taking it immediately and, either refrain from sex or use other options like spermicide or whatever until I came to my next doctor's appointment. And by the time I went to my next doctor's appointment, I was pregnant again with our second son. He realized I was leaving him, and while I'm breastfeeding my child and trying to recover from having one baby, he was sleeping with me. He was having sex with me while I was asleep. I would like be passed out. And I'm usually a light sleeper, but I was passed out because I was like taking medication to recover from the cesarean, and I was breastfeeding and just trying to take care of 3 kids. And I woke up, like kind of felt him one time, and I woke up and I caught him like ejaculate, like coming, like as I'm waking up, and I'm like, "Are you serious?" I'm going to the room, and this is like a scene out of a horror thriller movie. He's literally is like balloons, red balloons coming down, like heart balloons and stuff, and he's laying across the bed like he's laid on a cross. And I'm like, what in the hell is going on? And with a box in his hand, and all of a sudden I start seeing this red stuff on my bed, and I'm like, what is this? What is going on? And he starts screaming like, I smell him all in your bed, in our bed. He's been in our bed. And realized that he cut his wrist and he was bleeding out on my bed, and was like, either marry me or let me die. And that was the box that was in his hand with a wedding ring, engagement ring.
What? What's up, my people? It's your favorite light M Boogie in this thing. Welcome to another amazing episode of the Can't Be Broken podcast, where we are shining light on the darkness that is domestic violence and abuse. If you've never been here before, welcome to the show. We got 3 simple goals to educate, empower, and encourage. We're here to educate anyone who has never been in an abusive relationship, doesn't understand abusive relationships, why people go, why people stay. We're going to find out today. We are here to empower all of our survivors to stand up and share your story without shame, fear, guilt, or judgment, because you are strong, you are powerful, and your voice deserves to be heard. And to anyone who is currently suffering in silence, listen, you are not alone. You are not crazy. Abuse is not normal. Your feelings are valid. And despite how it may look and feel in this very moment, there is always a way out, and we encourage you to safely seek support. Now, y'all know we got to go ahead and hop up in this thing, because we about to rise above these insecurities, release the burdens of shame and guilt, and revive our God-given power, purpose, and passion the confidence way, because we about to light it up. Y'all know what it is. Welcome to another amazing episode of the Can't Be Broken podcast. And I am super excited, as always, to introduce our next guest, this beautiful, blissful spirit. You see what I did there? Y'all, listen, she is all things creative and innovator, pastry chef, personal private chef, poet, author, whatever you need to bring joy and bliss and peace and happiness in your life. This is she, and she is it. Miss Suadamani, welcome. Pew, 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 pew. Good morning, good morning, good morning, good
Hey, thanks for
morning. Yes,
having
oh my gosh. Girl, how you doing?
me. I'm doing good. I'm
Yeah.
doing
Yeah.
fantastic. Blessed.
Something is telling me I need to put a warning out there and say, please put your helmets on. I don't know why. I don't know why. It's just the energy. But please put your helmet on. If you got shoulder straps, knee pads, elbow pads, wrist, I don't know what you need. We ain't talked about this yet. But she just, for her name to literally be Bliss and her to go through this, it's about to be. Just hold on for the ride. Arms, legs inside the vehicles at all times, because we about to dive up in this thing. Y'all hear me? Do you hear me? Okay, I'm act right. Girl, Suadamani, I'm about to shift it. I'm about to reword it a little bit, because your name literally means blissful.
Yes.
How you end up in an abusive relationship and you are bliss?
Woo. Spiritual warfare.
Talk heavy. Talk
Yeah,
heavy.
yeah.
Do you feel like when you were growing up, was there anything around you that you had witnessed or experienced as a child that was abusive that you can remember?
Well, of course. I mean, that's where it usually always stems from is childhood. I grew up in a very religious background at first. Both of my parents um, were in Hindu religion. And so that's actually my background before my mom switched to Christianity when I was a teenager. So growing up in that lifestyle, I had no clue of what this world was like. You know, my dad was in the army, he was a sergeant, and we traveled a lot. So I was an army brat. And then when my maternal grandmother passed away, we moved back here to Philadelphia. And my whole world has changed. Things were just very different. I was used to going to a temple and praying not Jesus, but a different God, Krishna, and wearing saris and Punjabis and, the whole Indian culture. And moving to Philadelphia just was like a real culture shock for my family, myself, I would say, because I was the oldest. So, that transition was like very traumatic. And then during the 80s crack era, my dad succumbed to drug abuse and started using drugs out of nowhere. Um, and my mom started having affairs and seeing the catalyst of that, and my whole family literally falling apart within a couple years. Um, so during that time where before I was seeing a loving family, my dad loving on my mom and them having a healthy relationship from what I could see, to it being very catastrophic and abusive, him stealing and, doing that spiral down. And then he eventually left to go seek treatment and they divorced or separated. And didn't see my dad for like 2 years while he went to go get help. And that kind of just changed my whole life. And seeing my dad during that time was, in the downfall of their marriage, hitting on my mom and stuff like that, just was like shocking because, I didn't see that no other time, in their relationship. So that was the first time I witnessed abuse, physical abuse. Um, and then throughout my life, I was picking men that exhibited a lot of his good traits, but then also those bad traits as well. And then after my dad had left, I got pregnant literally like 2 to 3 years later when I was 14.
Okay,
Um,
wait a second. So when y'all moved to Philly, you were 11, 12.
about 10.
You were 10.
Yeah.
Okay, so y'all were in Philly for a minute and then your dad got on the
Yeah.
drugs.
He left when
And
I
you
was
were
like, he left when I was like 12 going into 13, like very pivotal time for a young girl and stuff. And I was very close to my father. That was my best friend. Um, So, I took it very hard and I kind of spiraled out and started, misbehaving at school, fighting, stuff like that, just not knowing how to express my anger and stuff like that. But still was always a good student and stuff, just very short temper. um,
so
but when
you
I got
remember
pregnant,
though, before we get to the pregnancy, you remember at 12 or before your dad left. So between 10 and 12, you remember like seeing your mom stepping out.
yeah,
She wasn't even trying to hide it.
somewhat, but when you're the oldest and I'm very intelligent, I can kind of pick up the signs. It was like strange men coming to the house saying there were workmen coming to fix things and stuff, but then I'll be creeping around the wall and I see the man trying to touch on my mom's, butt and stuff like that. And she giggling and, and then the fights they were having was that she was having men coming into the house when he wasn't there. That was just unheard of back in the day. You don't ever have another man in the house when your husband is not home and stuff. And so the arguments were like, you had another man in my house when I wasn't here and da 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 da, you know. And yeah, it just got volatile, and my dad, decided to leave, because it just was not good for us to see them fighting constantly. And then he also needed to go seek treatment as well.
So his reason for leaving was literally to go to treatment and get in rehab.
Yes.
But in that time that he's getting himself better for the family, you're breaking down and falling apart.
Yeah. And having to take the brunt of the responsibility for the household, because then my mom had to work where she didn't really have to work like that because my dad, provided and stuff. My mom chose to work when she wanted to. Um, she then had to work 2 and 3 jobs, and so I had to take care of the household and my other 2 siblings and stuff like that. And so, yeah, and then she started going out all the time with her girlfriend and not coming home really on the weekends and stuff like that.
Oh my goodness. I can't even imagine, because 12, 13, 14, and you're the head of the house because your dad's gone and now your mom is trying to be young, wild, and free.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So then you fast forward to you're 14, you get pregnant. Were you in a relationship with this guy, or was it kind of just like an outlet to something? Like, how did we get to that point?
It was just an outlet. Like I had no concept of my body whatsoever, how to respect my body. Well, back in the day, it was just like, just don't bring no babies home. That's all. It was no explanation or whatever. I wasn't even having sex, when my mom was saying this stuff to me. And she even had take me to my first OBGYN, which I didn't even know that's what I was going for. She just told me I was going for a regular doctor's appointment. And they're talking about open your legs. And I'm like, for what? Like, had no clue of anything. I didn't know what a menstrual cycle was, anything like that. And even when I got my menstrual cycle, she just threw me a pad and said, put this on. Never showed me how to put it on. I didn't know what I thought I was bleeding to death. Didn't she didn't explain anything to me, nothing. So a lot of the things that possibly would have been taught if my dad was there in that type of relationship, that I would have had with her, or it would have been more, I don't know, I guess more, that motherly type of, guidance would have been there. But that kind of left when he left, pretty much.
Wow, that's heavy. Oh my God.
So I didn't
Because,
know. My first experience was just with a guy, my neighbor's cousin, and then it was the guy that I got pregnant by, but I didn't know that's what even makes babies. Like I really didn't know, like at all. So
because there's no telling what your mom is dealing with in this season. Because everything, at least to you, seemed normal and healthy until y'all moved to Philly. Y'all moved
yeah,
to Philly and somehow your dad gets on drugs. And I can imagine your mom went from however long they were married and living a specific lifestyle and having this security in your father to what we doing? What are we
yeah,
doing? And so
and
with your world being tossed around, like, not to knock your mom, her world had to been tossed around too, because you had one way of living, one expectation, one thing where we're both taking care of the family. Now this what you decide to do? Like, this what we doing? I just lost my mother. We move here, and this what we doing?
yeah.
So,
I
and
have
then,
empathy for her, as a woman and stuff like that. But at that time, I didn't realize that she was a raging narcissist. So,
well, dang.
and my dad kind of kept everything together and control, and kept her together in a way.
What? Now, see, here I am, like, okay, mom, going out of control because that's a lot. That's a whirlwind of stuff. But that was her character.
Yeah, yeah. I think maybe I'm not negating that her experience was traumatic, and it probably on top of other traumatic experiences that she went through as a child, growing up in Jim Crow era and stuff like that, that has traumatic, connotations within itself, and suppressing those things. And I think it just was like a snowball effect, and that true character of hers just kind of stayed after that. That just became part of her character.
So now here you are. You don't know anything about your body. Your mom is so distant that you're not learning anything about your body. You relocated to Philly, so it's not like you really around family, right?
Most of
Do
my
you have,
family is from Philadelphia.
so you
Yeah.
have Philly there. I mean, family in Philly. Okay.
Yes.
So did anybody step in, like, don't bring no babies home, and now here you are 14? Like, how does that conversation go?
Um, I didn't even really know I was pregnant. Like, my mom said something. She was just like, I guess she was monitoring like when my periods were or something like that, or just, a mom just knows their child. And she just came out like, "You're pregnant." I'm like, "No, I'm not. Why would you say that?" You know? And took me to the doctors and I was pregnant. So it was more or less like, who's the father? First, she didn't want me to have the baby. She wanted me to get an abortion. And I was like, absolutely not, because in Hindu religion, that is like totally not even thought of. We had just switched to like Christianity, but I didn't know anything about that religion. I was still very green in that. So I was still going off of doctrines and things that I learned all my life, and it was like, both of my parents were vegetarian, which was called strict vegetarian at the time. Now it's called vegan. So we're not even allowed to kill animals. Do you think I'm killing a baby? like, like hell no, I'm not going to hell. You know, I'm not reaping that karma. And
Right.
so
Ooh, girl.
I was shocked that she even had it as a suggestion. And so when that, it was too late to get that done, and she switched to putting her up for adoption. And I was like, I don't think I can do that. I don't think I can see my baby and then just give it away and stuff. And so I ended up having her, and she ended up loving her and acting like it was her baby more than mine. But yes, I took full responsibility and I went and got a job, and
At 14, 15, 14 or 15.
yeah, well, 14 actually. My first job was a filler job that summer, and finished out high school. I had to put my daughter in daycare 2 weeks after I had her, and I worked all through high school and finished out. Yeah.
So how was your mom towards you and your other siblings after you got pregnant and had the baby? So I know she loved on the baby, but that doesn't say how she treated or her attention was towards you. What was that energy shift like? Because now dad is out of the picture, and we have a whole nother life that is a whole nother responsibility, as opposed to a whole nother person who is adding to help take care of the family. This person needs to be taken care of. How did your mom, if you can remember, how did her energy towards you and your other siblings shift in that moment?
Well, she just retracted all her love from me. She completely emotionally and financially disowned me, and that's how it's been to this very day.
But she loved your daughter. She had the ability to literally cut off her love to
Yeah,
you.
I think it's more about control, like because certain things that I was finding out, even when I was my last year of 2 years of high school, I went to go live with my dad once he had got stable and everything and got a new place, and I was living out in Downingtown where he moved to, and I was catching the R5 every day down to Philadelphia to finish out high school because I really loved my school. I went to creative performing arts, and I did not, that was my life. I was like, I don't want to give that up. And they kind of kept it a secret that I didn't live in the city. And they said, as long as you can get here on time, you can stay. And I moved with him because it was this nothing. Like, it was like she just totally gave up on me. She would put all the intention on my younger siblings. My youngest sibling is my sister, and that became like her golden child, and she kind of pumped all her finances and dreams into her. And she even asked me if I wanted to give up my rights for my daughter, and she would take over. Yeah. And I found out that and I told her, hell no, because I knew she would probably never give her back. And I found out later when I was living with my dad and I was trying to get assistance. He was helping me get assistance through the county, for me to get like transportation to go back and forth from school and for daycare for my daughter. And found out that she opened a case with welfare under my name and forged my signature and was getting benefits for my daughter and I all that time.
No.
Yeah. 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 And so that caseworker up in Montgomery County, because they don't play up in the counties and stuff, they made them close. They called down here to Philadelphia County and said, she doesn't live there anymore. Y'all need to close this case immediately. Mm-hmm. But she never brought it up. I never brought it up.
Because I mean, what's the point of bringing it up? It's not going to do anything. But did you get assistance after that case was closed? Were you able to get assistance for where you were?
Yes. Yeah.
And she just acted like nothing even happened. Like, well, I guess that income is gone. She must have.
Yeah. Yeah.
Are you 15 now? Well, did you move in with him while you were still 14 or you 15, 16 at this point?
I was 16.
Okay, so your dad successfully completed rehab and has reestablished himself. And then you move in with him, you and your daughter, and he's helping you navigate life as a single teenage mom in high school.
Mm-hmm.
So with you having this daughter to raise, and now you're going to school and you're working and you having to get her to daycare and you don't have legitimate transportation for yourself, what happens to your life? You graduate. Is your dad like a completely different person after he comes out of rehab, or is he reverted back to the person he was before rehab, the same person you knew, or was he a better version of himself?
He was a better version of himself for a while. He had got remarried, and had two of my younger siblings, and also adopted her son that was 1 year old when they got together. So when he got married, he adopted him as well. So I had three younger siblings after my mom's set. So yeah, he did reestablish and was clean for a while. He eventually did relapse though, but it was after I already moved out and was in college and stuff like that. But yeah, him and his wife were using drugs.
No.
Yeah, she was a recovering addict, in which I found out later. And I'm like, Dad, how would you get with a recovering addict? Two addicts cannot be with each other. So I knew that was only a matter of time, a ticking time bomb. And while I was in high school, she was on and off drugs in between pregnancies, and he was trying to keep her clean while she was bringing drugs in the house, and she would go on binges and be missing for days. Yeah. And so I knew it was only a matter of time before he probably would end up relapsing. My mom was doing her own thing. I wasn't really going down there to visit like that. I would just stop by, when I was down in Philly for school sometimes. And she was in a new relationship and she was messing with a married man. So, yeah, for 10 years. So it was real crazy. It was a crazy time. But it was good times and happy times in between. And I also got pregnant again my last year of high school. with my oldest son, and had in my first semester of college.
This is a lot in a short amount of time.
Yeah. My teenage years were very volatile and stressful.
You're living with your dad who gets married. He gets married before you graduate high school, right?
Yeah.
You're living with your dad who gets remarried to a recovering addict who already has a kid, and then they have two more kids. Meanwhile, you're in high school with one child, and then your senior year, you get pregnant again. Now you go off to college. What is life like? Because you've moved out of the house. Your dad is now back on drugs. The three siblings that you had through that relationship, now here you are, a single mom of two as a freshman in college. Like, what does that look like? How is that working for you?
Um, I don't know. I did get accepted to a lot of colleges. My dream was to go to NYU, but of course I couldn't go, especially after me getting pregnant in my senior year. I knew that was not going to happen. So I ended up going to Temple. And so I asked my mom, can I move back in because I wanted to be closer because I knew between dropping my daughter off from daycare and now my son, and I wanted my, newborn son to be close to me while I was in class and stuff. And in order to get to class on time, I needed to be closer. And so she agreed to let me come back. And so I was doing good for a while, working part-time and going to school. I was, had a cushion a little bit. My dad is a veteran, so I was getting VA benefits, just for going to school, plus my part-time job and then a little assistance from the county. And then things seemed like they were rolling for a little while, for like 2.5 years. And then all of a sudden, my mom, when you have a narcissistic mom, anytime she would see me like progressing or like flourishing in a certain way, she would try to sabotage things. And so she just would start picking arguments with me out of nowhere. And I'm like, she's telling me, oh, I gotta be in the house by a certain time. I'm like, Mom, I'm grown. I got two kids. I got things to do, whatever. Um, and she was nitpicking about nothing, oh, you have to start paying rent. So I started paying her rent. And then it was something else and then something else, and so I tried to fulfill all those needs that she wanted, and it seemed like it still wasn't enough. And then one day we got into a disagreement and she said, you got 30 days to get out of my house.
So you move out, you find an apartment.
No, I had a temporary like temp job at the IRS. I wasn't full time yet. That was my way of getting in. I ended up panicking and with no money, no real money and stuff. And I started dancing. I became a dancer. One of my girlfriends on the block I grew up with was a dancer. I thought she was like a performer. I just was very green and just naive about things. And I was into performing arts. So I'm like, well, I can do that. I've been on stages. I've like, did a lot. I've used to perform in Thanksgiving Day parades and sing background, for famous people, all types of stuff. So I'm like, oh, I can do that. And not really like, this is a different type of dancing once I showed up. And I'm like, oh, and that was like a complete shock to me. But the weekend I started, I made so much money because it was like, we have this event called the Greek that comes to Philadelphia, and I think they have other ones in different states. It's like all the sorority, fraternity things, like gathering in the park is like a whole, they don't have it anymore because I think it was this whole big thing back in the day where it was like women were getting raped, they were ripping the clothes off of girls and stuff, and so they stopped it. Yeah, it was on the news and everything. Like it just got out of hand. But that weekend was Greek weekend, and I made like back in the day it was a lot of money. I made like $10,000 in a weekend.
Back in the day, that's girl. Who making $10,000 a weekend now? What
I
we
know
doing?
that was 99. That was 99. That was like the bling bling when that first started. So
What?
that's when guys spend money. They took pride in spending money on women and stuff like that. Now this stuff now is trash. That's the era
Wait,
I grew up in.
you said y'all trash.
Trash.
Trash can. Wait, okay, wait. All right, so here you are, this green performing artist, like, yeah, girl, I can dance with you. And you show up thinking you're gonna perform for an audience that's like ready to clap their hands as a sign of you well done, good job. But you get there and people are taking their clothes off. How do you and you do it? How did she
I
convince you to do it?
I wasn't like really a stage girl. So there's two different types of performers. Back then it used to be like lap dance girls and then also like stage girls. I didn't know how to pole dance and all that stuff like that. I did try that later, but it was just not my thing because you really have to like take your clothes off and um depending on what clubs you're at, some are more able to touch more and do more than other clubs. And so the club I first started at was like anything could go, like pretty much. It was just disgusting and raunchy and just nasty. And so I was like, oh no, like, but the lap dance girls are just really, like you would do in the basement parties, like the Wallies and stuff. That's pretty much what it was,
With
and you
clothes
might take
on.
yeah, what you're, something that looks like lingerie or whatever, but you would just like pull down maybe your bra a little bit and stuff like that and get a couple tips and then pull back up. But yeah, they weren't really allowed to touch. They had to keep their hands to the side, like.
Sis, you
So
made 10 stacks
yeah,
in some lingerie and couldn't nobody touch you?
yeah.
Liz, I ain't promoting.
Ain't like that now. I don't even know what it's like. I can't even imagine. It's like a dumpster dive now. I can't even, no.
I am by no means promoting or condoning women selling their bodies because your body is beautiful and it is precious and it is gift.
It was pressing. I mean, that wasn't, of course, my first result, but I felt like at that time I had no choice and my back was up against the wall to be able to take care of my kids. I knew like maybe in 6 months I was turning 21 and my mom's mom, my maternal grandmother had a little small inheritance for me when I turned 21. So I was going to add that money to it and I'll be able to get my first apartment and furnish it and also take care of my kids. And so I went in with a 3-year plan to finish out school. And I said, once that's done, once 3 years is up, I'm up. That's it. So, yeah.
I'm still stuck on 10K. Y'all,
Listen, that's how it was back
I
in the day.
can see why it would be hard to walk away and you done made 10 stacks in a weekend.
Me because
That
the stuff that I saw just was like in the disrespect for women as the times changed over time, over the years and stuff like that. I just like this is not my thing. I couldn't sit around and look at the abuse that these women were going through and stuff, the physical abuse. They had pimps and stuff. I never had a pimp or nothing like that. I was seeing women get beat, women get raped, just totally just
in the
degrading themselves.
clubs.
Yeah, of course. And then it was girls that was 15, 16 in there that they had fake papers and was saying they were 18 and stuff. Every once in a while, raids would happen and stuff. Like these girls were runaways and, it just wasn't my thing. I just couldn't stand by and just see that anymore.
Yeah.
So eventually,
Dang.
yeah.
So the whole 3 years, the rest of your time in college, you're there using that money to help you pay for college, pay for your apartment, all the things. Do you get into any relationships while you're in college? Or are you just like, I ain't studying nobody. I got 2 babies. I ain't doing this again. I got to get through. Let me just put my head down and go.
No. For a while, yes. I ended up meeting this guy that was in the club, that actually
While you were
worked
working
there.
there, the one you were
Yeah,
working
he
at?
worked. Yeah, he worked there, and I was like, he was constantly asking me. I'm like, no, 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 no. And I finally kind of just gave in. We were friends for a while, and what happened was how we got together. It's a sad situation, but my story. So when I was 17, actually my last year of high school, before it started, that summer before my last year of high school, I was like brutally raped. Um, and I kind of like kept it a secret. My family eventually did find out months later.
How?
Um, how did they find out?
Yeah.
Oh, from the guys bragging about it in the neighborhood up where my dad lived at. Yeah.
So were you just walking home from school one day? Like what?
Mm-mm. I mean, I was, doing teenage stuff. When I would come home from work or days I didn't have to work, and I would put my daughter down for the night and stuff. I only had like maybe an hour or two to go outside and chill with friends and stuff like that. And there was a couple guys that were my brother's friend, and they were like drinking. They were drinking beer, like a 40 or whatever. And I was like, oh, let me get a sip or whatever. And I mean, I remember looking back now, they were kind of just looking at me with this stare, and I just took a couple of sips. And then I was like, well, I don't want to do that no more. I'm just about to walk to the playground, to the park, and just chill out there. And, I was like a stargazer. So I was just sitting just quiet and write and stuff like that. So I used to write songs and poetry. And one of the guys was like, oh, I'm gonna walk with you. I'm tired of hanging out with them. So I'm like, okay. And we were walking and talking, and that's all I remember. My mind went black. So I think they had possibly had pills in the beer, but I didn't know. Then nobody told me, and I don't take drugs, so it totally just knocked me out. And when I came to, I was in the park on the grass, and all of a sudden I just see all these eyes over top of me. And I'm like, what the hell like is going on? So I try to get up. And as I'm trying to get up to scream, one of the guys was like, have some more beer, and poured all this beer in my face. And so like I'm trying to like get myself together. My eyes is burning. I'm trying to like understand what's going on. And as I'm trying to get myself together, one guy just gets on top of me and starts doing his thing. And then
Do
another
you,
one. And then I realized really what's going on as I'm getting my bearings, and I try to scream, but we're kind of like far out into the field a little bit. But I can all of a sudden see somebody's light come on, like to their back door. And I took the opportunity to just start really screaming. And they just started running and scattering and stuff like that. And I kind of like try to run towards the back door, but kind of just collapsed, and then I passed out again. And then when the guys came back, I guess that felt bad, and he was like, you know, I didn't do anything. I didn't do anything. I'm gonna take you home. And he walked me home, and I kind of just went in the house and took a shower and just cried and just never talked about it. Mm.
and that
But then
happens
it
way
got
too
cocky.
often.
Mm-hmm. And then it got cocky and started coming by my job because I was working at Wendy's, and they would come through the driveway to antagonize me when I was like working at the window.
And so your
Mhm.
dad overheard them at some point,
Well, I
or
guess we got
someone
around.
else?
Yeah, my brother found out about it first.
So how did that conversation go?
One day I came home for school. I found out that my brother, he had behavioral problems and was in like a teen type of boot camp thing. And he was home for the weekend, and I found out that he got taken back abruptly because he had took, um, it was a god brother that was really close to my family that my dad kind of took in. He had took his gun and was pretty much gonna try to kill the guys that did it. And somehow it got out. And so the people came back to take him back to the facility. And that's how my dad found out. And he was like, why didn't you say anything? And I was just like, I didn't want to shame the family. You know, at that time, I was thinking it was my fault, you know, that I shouldn't have been out there drinking. And yeah. So that leads up to the experience I had with the guy I started dating at the club, is because I would, you know, at that time I would get like rides home. I had drivers and stuff because just to be safe, you know, I didn't never want anybody taking me home. And when I first started, I didn't have a car, so I would have like, you know, luxury drivers come pick me up and stuff. And one day he was like, you know, can you mind if I get a ride home along the way? And I'm like, oh, I don't really want you to because I don't want anybody to know where I live at. But he begged me, he was like, please, I don't know the way to get home right now and stuff. I was like, all right. So that's how he found out where I lived at. And the day that he contacted me, he was asking me, like, could he come over? He wants to take me out. And I'm like, no, no, no. We were still just friends at that time. And I believe it was God because that day, I don't know what this triggered. So I started having flashbacks about the rape and stuff. And I just got severely depressed. And that was my first attempt trying to commit suicide. And I took all these pills while my children were sleeping, taking a nap. And I must have, you know, passed out. And he just decided to show up to my house anyway. And my daughter ended up opening the door for him. And she never opens, you know, knows how to open the door for anybody. And he was like, where's your mom at? And she was like, she's upstairs sleeping. I can't wake her up. And he came up there and couldn't obviously get me up and call 911. And by then I was dead. I remember I had a whole out of body experience. I was looking at everything happening over top of me when the paramedics was like bringing me back to life. So, and then that's how I ended up with him. And that's my last two children's father.
So you got with the guy at the club because he was your knight in shining armor.
Yeah.
And you literally saved my life.
Yeah.
How long was the knight in shining armor sitting with you, shining? You hear me? How long was it shining before the armor went rusty and fell off and you was like, oh, this ain't it?
Possibly like 3 years in, or 3 years. We had our first son. We got pregnant almost right away. Maybe like the first year we were together. I had got pregnant before our son that we actually had. I had a miscarriage. I had a tubal pregnancy with that pregnancy, and then we got pregnant again. And then I ended up having my son, and then we started having problems because after I had got pregnant with my son, I stopped dancing, and I noticed that after that, after a while, he didn't want to work. We were literally living off of my savings from dancing, like because of
Do
course
you
I'm
think
just
he
had a
didn't want to work because you had a son and he was like, well, I want to be here spending more time with my son? Or it was just,
how he got
I,
comfortable. That seems like the MO with the relationships I am in, because I am such like a go-getter, you know what I mean? I do by any means necessary. I'm going to make that money. I'm going to take care of my children. And when they see a woman like that, that's strong and is an overcomer, and I just always make a way out of no way. Like there is no excuse. Men either get intimidated by that or they get too comfortable. I know how to make a home, I know how to cook, clean, like all that stuff. So I'm taking care of all that. I'm buying him stuff, you know. So he just like, all right, I'm chilling, like, you know. And so after he had our first son, I'm like, you know, told him, I said, I don't think this is gonna work anymore. You're not bringing me apart. I have three children now. You can't just be sitting home playing video games and smoking weed all day. And like, I'm not with that. I'm never gonna be with a bum, like ever. And and plus also I had a rough pregnancy with that son. I was sick the whole time. I ended up having emergency cesarean. And yeah, so it took me a while to recover. Usually where I would just bounce back, you know, what I mean, back to doing whatever I would do after I had my other children. I was back to, it took me a while to get things, you know, back into the swing of things.
And you're
I'll,
what, 20, 23 at this point, 22?
yep, like 21 going on
Girl,
22. And
you know how many
I think
lives you
he,
done lived? God, 22?
yeah, yeah. And
I did me too,
he
girl, but
realized,
go ahead.
no, he realized I was leaving him. And while I'm breastfeeding my child and trying to recover from having one baby, he was sleeping with me. He was having sex with me while I was asleep. I would like be passed out. And I'm usually a light sleeper, but I was passed out because I was like taking medication to recover from the cesarean, and I was breastfeeding and just trying to take care of three kids. And I woke up, like kind of felt him one time, and I woke up and I caught him like ejaculate, like coming, like as I'm waking up, and I'm like, "Are you serious?" And I wasn't on anything because when I started to take the prenatal pills or whatever, birth control again, I broke out into a bad rash. So my doctor told me to stop taking it immediately, and you know, either refrain from sex or use other options like spermicide or whatever until I came to my next doctor's appointment. And by the time I went to my next doctor's appointment, I was pregnant again. Yeah, with our second son. Mhm.
This man was having sex with you while you were asleep
They try to trap me to keep me from leaving, and yeah.
because he thought that if you have another baby, ain't no way she gonna be out here trying to raise four kids on her own. At 22.
Yeah.
Like, did he show any signs of control or manipulation or anything like that prior to you getting pregnant the first time, and or even after you getting pregnant, like before he quit job? Like, where did this come from? What did we miss?
Um, I think he had his own traumas, like from his childhood. He came here when he was 5 from Jamaica, and he was the only child from his mother. Um, she coddled him very badly. Um, but then also he had, I think, overly disciplined by his father, where he used to get a lot of beatings and also on punishment a lot. So I think he had his own dysfunction and trauma that he didn't quite understand and was dealing with, and possibly just didn't want me to leave, you know. um, had abandonment issues, possibly, all those things. And his father, I think, used to beat his mom, used to beat on his mother. So it was, it was a trauma bond all the way.
Did he ever physically abuse you? I mean, clearly the sexual abuse, but did he ever physically abuse you, or was it the sexual abuse in this relationship and then the financial abuse?
Not really. No, we had one big major blow up fight when I was pregnant um, with my last son. And he pushed me up against pushed me into the wall when I was pregnant. Yeah. And I knocked over the phone, and I think my mom heard the argument, and she went and called my brothers, and my brothers came kicking down doors. And that was all. He ain't never do nothing like that again because they came with the guns blazing.
Were you on the phone with your mom at the time?
No, it just so happened that she probably was calling at the same time that the phone fell over.
Wow.
Yep.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you get pregnant again. God. Like, I'm just,
Yeah. Yeah. It
because
was.
this isn't even like a mutual, this isn't even,
Yeah. And I was thinking about not keeping him, but when I went, he was like so fully developed already. Like, I'm just like, what in the hell? It looked like he full term. Like, what is going on here? They was like, oh, he's gonna be a chunky. He was the biggest baby out of all of them. His little cheeks and all that stuff. I said, there's no way I can do that. Like, yeah.
so you're
So,
impregnated.
yeah.
Is he there? Like, do y'all stay in the relationship until your last son is born? And then you're like, I can't manage myself, these four, and this other grown child. Is that when you get rid of him? Or like, how does that whole
Pretty
relationship
much,
break down?
yeah. I mean, pretty much, it was like broken down completely by the time I was giving birth. We were arguing in the delivery room. I was cursing him out to the point where they were saying, like, sir, if we come in here one more time, you're gonna have to leave. We're gonna have to have police escort you out of here.
So
Yeah.
you give birth to your son. Do y'all go home together and try
We go
to
together.
repair?
I was just using it as time to recover and to plan to get away. Like, and so I just stopped paying bills. Um, Also found out in that time, um, the first time we had together, so I had two pretty much infants, because they were 11 months apart. And
Stops. I'm just so disappointed in human beings at this moment because you, okay, let me not scream.
so actually before I gave birth to my youngest son, my son, the first son we have together, had an emergency health scare where he almost died. And that's when we found out that he had type 1 diabetes. And this was happened 1 month before I gave birth to our second son. So I had one son that was in ICU in the hospital while I was giving birth to my other son.
You have an infant at home through a complicated pregnancy that led you to an emergency C-section, which means the layers of your skin and body are cut open
Mm-hmm.
to pull another human out, then sewn back up, and you're supposed to be getting rest while you breastfeed and doing all of this, probably, and taking care of two other kids. And this child of God
You can
gets
call
you
me.
pregnant
Yeah.
immediately, like you're I didn't have any C-sections.
How
My
do
babies were, you weren't healed.
No, he could have gave me an infection or anything. Like he didn't care about my well-being or my health. No.
Okay. I just needed, because somebody didn't pick up everything. So I just needed to let's sit here and understand what is happening here. I'm in a relationship with someone who is so selfish that I literally just got cut open. And they're having sex with my body while I'm unconscious, pretty much. And you get me pregnant so that I have 2 children within 11 months of each other. And my child is in the ICU when I'm giving birth to the other one.
Yeah.
So now it's game on. Now it's like, all right,
Yeah.
this clearly is
Yeah.
not going to be my life.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So you start the plan of by any means necessary, and you like, you know what? I'm just gonna stop paying. You ain't going to work anyways. I'm not paying jack squat diddly. What we gonna do? How does that turn out?
Got evicted, and I rolled. I was living with a friend for a couple months and stuff. He started stalking her and doing stuff to her car. Um, so I didn't want to get her to get in the mix of it anymore, and so I moved with his father. Um, yeah, and his wife for a little bit, and he followed me there. First, they wouldn't let him in and stuff like that. Then they, I guess he buttered them up. I just want my family. I just want my family. And so they started letting him come over and stuff. And so he started staying over there. And I'm like, oh my God, I can't get away from him. And so my mom finally met another guy and got married. And so the house that I grew up in was just sitting there. There was nobody in there and stuff like that. It was still fully furnished. And so I asked my mom, like, can I come there? Like, I need to get away from him and stuff like that. And in the meantime, I had filed for housing um, to look for another house and stuff. She agreed. Her husband agreed for me to let me stay there. Um, but financially, I was like, I thought would be good, once I completely got settled and got back to work and everything, and I can get my children, my youngest two, in the daycare. But the problem was, a lot of daycares didn't want to take my son with the diabetes. They didn't. He was the youngest ever diagnosed at that time here in Philadelphia, and he was type 1, so they had to give him his needles and stuff like that, and special diet and all that stuff, and they were just too scared to do it. So a lot of people were turning me away. So I had to take a leave from work. And around the same time, my father passed. And so I went into a deep depression and just wasn't working at that time. And while trying to figure out what I'm going to do and get my, life together. And so I was there back at my mom's house that I grew up in for about 8 months. And then miraculously out of nowhere, like right after Christmas, um, that my house came through. And, I asked them, how much do I have to put down and stuff? And they said, well, since you're not working right now, because it was like on a sliding scale based on, how much you're making. At the time, and because I wasn't, it was like, oh, all you have to do is put down $200, and I'm like, what? Oh, I got that now, and I literally moved my kids in that night with blankets, and we slept on the floor, like literally.
And you're like 20, 24 now.
Yeah, around it. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Ain't no way. Like you're still a
Mm-hmm.
baby.
Yeah. I mean, that's not even half the battle because I mean, even when I was living at my mom's, back at my mom's house and stuff, and I'm telling her like, hey, why don't you just put the bills in my name? Because, right now I'm not working. I'm having, I wasn't anticipating no daycares to be able to take my child and stuff. I don't want to like ruin your credit and stuff or have your bills going up in your name. Because of the control that she always wants to have, she's like, no. So I'm like, well, why not? Why wouldn't you want me to get it out your name? And so she waits until I guess it keeps on going up, and she eventually says, "Well, um, I'm cutting off the gas," and she literally cut off the gas on me and her grandchildren. Yeah, in the
Wait,
middle of the winter. Middle
so
of the winter.
it's so she's still paying the bills.
They were in her name. We had an agreement that I was gonna be paying rent while I was there and also paying a portion of the bills. But once I seen that no daycare was taking my son, I, told her, I said, we might need to revamp the agreement because I haven't been able to find a daycare yet to take him. Lucky I eventually did. This older lady that used to watch my daughter when I first went back to high school and stuff, she wasn't doing daycare anymore. She already had retired and everything, but she agreed. I ran into her at a bus stop around the corner and she agreed to take him because she's also diabetic. And she was like, I don't do daycare anymore, but I'll definitely take your son for you. And so that's how I was able to get back to work. But by then the bills were, so high because she wouldn't let me put them in my name. She just decided to turn the gas off on me
In the middle of the winter
for the
in
winter.
Philadelphia.
Yeah. So for a whole month and a half, I had to boil water, pots of water to give my kids baths and stuff like that, or for me to take a bath. And we had to sleep like I went and got a kerosene heater, and we had to sleep close to the kerosene heater, so we can keep warm with blankets and stuff.
I have never almost cried on this podcast. And this the second time. My heart is aching for you.
Yeah.
This is outrageous.
It is. You can't make it up. Can't make it up. And so for a month and a half, I'm trying to get the gas on. The electric, she cut off too, but I was able to get that in my name. But the gas company was more strict. They wanted a lease. I'm like, well, that's my mom. She's not going to give me a lease, especially after she cut the gas off on me. You know what I mean? And so
Mm-hmm.
I'm calling and calling and calling, going up there. They still wouldn't do anything. And finally, I had to speak to a supervisor, and she just felt compassion towards me. And she was like, well, we're on a recorded line, so I'm really not allowed to say what you can do. And I was just like, well, I don't know what to do. And she was just like, go to Staples. And I was like, what? I'm like, well, what's at Staples? Like,
Right. I need gas. I need heat, not paper.
she was my guardian angel. She said, go to Staples. And she said, well, I got to go now. So one day I just went to Staples and I was like, do y'all give out leases here? And they was just like, well, we have a whole aisle of different contracts and we have leases, like blank leases on this aisle. So she took me to the aisle and she was like, this is what you need? I said, yeah. And I filled it out, forged my mom's signature and took it down to the gas company and got the gas back.
Y'all, your name is Bliss by any means necessary. You hear me? Like the if by any means necessary is in the dictionary, your whole face and government name is on it.
Listen, it's God's covering. It's God's
Come on,
covering.
God. Come on, God. What my daddy always says, favor ain't fair.
Oh,
And thank God for favor.
well, his chosen ones always go through the worst, but we always come out on the other side.
You
So,
24 years old, and this is what you're going through with 4 kids. So you finally get away
mhm.
from homeboy, the father of the last 2. Is
Yeah,
anybody, and I feel like this is a stupid question, but I got to ask it, is anybody offering any support for any of their children? at this point in your life when you're 24?
No.
I ain't think so, but we ain't trying to assume over here. We going for straight facts, no chase. Nobody. Are the other two even trying to see their kids? Because it don't sound like it.
No.
Okay. So the fathers of your first two children ain't nowhere around. The one of your last two is stalking and harassing until you move back to your family home. That's when it stops, right?
Oh, no, he was still trying to come around here. I want to see my kids. Stuff like that.
So did you ever go to court?
Yeah, we eventually had to go to court once I moved into my new place after I left my mom's house and stuff. Yeah, because we got back together for a short period of time, maybe like a year and a half after us not being together for like 7 months, 8 months. I was like, all right, one more time, we can try. He promised that he was going to work and, be all that he can be. And of course, that was a lie. Found out that the job that he did get, that and I was paying my god sister to watch my youngest two kids, because then I moved and wasn't close to the lady anymore for her to watch my son. And so I still had that issue, and I just didn't trust a lot of people with my son. So my god sister said that she was willing to watch my youngest two while we both worked. And then I later found out that he was like staying home or like was leaving for short periods of time and then coming back and saying, oh, they didn't need me that day, when it takes like an hour and a half to get to work. And he would leave for like an hour and a half and come back and be like, and so I eventually called the job and found out that he hadn't worked there in about a month and some change. And I was like, I'm done. Like, I'm done. And try to get him out my house, and he just was refusing to leave. He was stalking me. I like eventually started talking to this guy at my job, and he kind of like felt like I might have been talking to somebody else, and he was stalking me, jumping out of bushes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, all kinds of weird stuff.
Like
And
for real, jumping out of bushes?
yeah, for real, for real. For real, for real.
See, people be thinking folks just be making stuff up off their mind in these movies, but it be real life situations, and they be like, yo, let me just put that in here because folks ain't gonna believe it no ways.
Yeah. Or days I would let him come see the kids. He was like putting tissue paper or pieces of paper inside the door. I found that out. So when I was closing the deadbolt, it wasn't closing all the way, and he'd be able to push it over. And one time I woke up and he was standing over top of me in the middle of the night.
You
Yeah.
lying.
Oh, no. But the final straw with him was one day he stopped by and said, of course, he wanted to see the kids. And I'm like, all right, I have to run to the market anyway. I'll only be going for like an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours tops. His friend had dropped him off and said he was going to circle back to come get him. And I said, his friend dropped me off at the market, and I said I can walk back with my cart and stuff. Um, and by the time I came back and I'm putting the groceries away, I'm like, where's your dad at? And it was like, oh, he's in the room. And I'm like, why is he in my room? Like, he's not out here with y'all. And I'm going to room, and this is like a scene out of a horror thriller movie. He's literally is like balloons, red balloons coming down, like heart balloons and stuff. And he's laying across the bed like he's laid on a cross. And I'm like, what in the hell is going on? And with a box in his hand. And all of a sudden I start seeing this red stuff on my bed. And I'm like, what is this? What is going on? And he starts screaming like, I smell him all in your bed, in our bed. He's been in our bed. And realized that he cut his wrist and he was bleeding out on my bed, and was like, either marry me or let me die. And that was the box that was in his hand with a wedding ring, engagement ring.
What?
Yeah.
First, there's so many questions. How you get all these balloons? Okay. I know this ain't even the right type of line of question right here, but I'm stuck on you got a whole bunch of balloons, and that's your that man needs to be in a psych ward.
Yeah, yeah.
He
So
done
I
went
go,
out and bought a ring. While you gone, he done filled the room with balloons. Then he waiting for you in your room on your bed, screaming bloody murder and bleeding.
yeah, that wasn't the first time he cut his wrist. That was the second time to try to get me back.
When I tell y'all, let me just sit here seriously, because the beauty of this show is that we can find humor through
Yeah.
our hurt, and we can, because we're on the other side of it. And I use that not to
No, I'm real serious.
minimize,
How I
you know,
am too. Yeah,
yeah, it's not to minimize what we've been through, but we've been through it and we out of it now. And it's like God, peace, joy. So this is buffoonery, but it's
yeah,
also the sign that whoever is suffering right now, it doesn't have to end where you are. You really do have a better life on the other side. Now that I put that out there,
definitely.
it is so important to understand that they will threaten. Some of them will only threaten their own lives just for the sake of getting you back to wherever they are, so they can pull the control and manipulation tactics on you again. And then some of them will actually go forward with self-harm for the sake of controlling you, because they're playing on your human nature. They're playing on your empathy. They're playing on the fact that they know that you care just enough about them to not, like, I don't want to see you die in my bed. No, like at
Exactly. I mean,
all.
that was the final straw for me because you did that while our children were in the other room.
While our children are there.
You could have got my children taken away from me. Um, and I looked at it as like, if you willing to do this, probably the next step is you trying to kill me and the kids or something like, and yourself, like a murder suicide. So I literally started screaming, telling my daughter to call the cops and stuff like that.
How old is your daughter at this time? Your oldest daughter? She's what? 14? No,
She was probably
10,
about 8,
11ish.
probably,
Because you're 24 now, right?
yeah, she was probably, yeah, like 9, 10, something like
Okay.
that.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'm screaming. So he jumps up, locks the door, wouldn't let me get out the room and stuff. So no, 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 don't call the cops. Whatever. So I'm screaming, call the cops, call the cops, like, whatever. And so they eventually do it. And he wouldn't let me out the room. And I said, better let me out the room or I'm gonna hurt you. And he wouldn't let me out the room. So I had to beat him up. I beat him up and finally got out the room. And literally, I don't know if he called his friend or his friend was nearby or just happened to pull up. And before the cops and the ambulance got there, his friend pulled up and he jumped in the car and they peeled off. And the police got there, seen the whole crime scene, and like literally took me down to go get an emergency restraining order that evening. Like, and so I had a restraining order for him for many years, actually, after that.
So it sounds like he wasn't cutting himself to kill himself. He was just
Just
cutting
for,
himself to bleed.
yeah, attention seeking.
Because ain't no way all this happening and you got enough energy to run out the house and you bleeding out. Okay. Y'all don't fall for it.
Right.
Don't fall for the self-harm. Let me tell, here's the advice. Here's the real advice. One, don't fall for the self-harm threats, because it's literally just another mind game. Two, if you care that much that you feel the need, you have to go back, don't go back. All you got to do is do a self-harm report, or what is it called?
A
Oh, it's
wellness
right
check?
there. Yes, it was right there. Call 911, tell them this is not an emergency for me, but I need somebody to do a wellness check at this address for this person. If you feel that drawn and you feel that convicted that they're really going to hurt themselves, don't take yourself back there. It's somebody that's getting paid to do that.
Right.
All you gotta do, 911, run a wellness check at address blah 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 for blah 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 blah, because he didn't call me, say he gonna kill himself. And I ain't going over there, and it's out your hands. And so
Yeah.
now whether they're serious about it or not, you did what you were supposed to do, which is one, keep yourself safe, and two, you acted like a human being. You acted
Right.
in from your heart of saying, I don't want you to get hurt. But if you are about to hurt yourself, let me send the people who can actually help you, because I sure can't do it. I ain't trained for this.
Right.
You ain't taking me down with you. Have mercy. So you done got an emergency restraining order, and he followed the restraining order, because a lot of them don't.
Yeah, he did. I mean, they
He
took it very
follows the
seriously.
restraining order.
I didn't even have to talk to the judge. They seen the report and was like, bam, here. Like, and he was there and tried to talk to me out in the waiting room. I said, you know, if I scream, they're gonna come over here and lock you up. Like, get away from me. He's like, don't do this, don't do this. I said, oh, it's happening. It's happening. They just issued it immediately. So he was still trying to talk to me while we were there at the courthouse.
It's like it's like there's a piece of their mind missing.
Yeah.
And they got so much good sense, but something is really, the screws ain't loose, they lost. Like something is lost. So you're 24, 25 at this point, maybe. All
Yeah.
25 probably at this point. All this happens. You got your 4 kids. You're in your spot. Now you got a crime scene to clean up. You got a restraining order to put out. How is life after 25? Like, does it get better?
It got better for a while. I did find love. The guy that I was met at my job at the IRS. We were ended up being together fully together. That was became my ex fiance. We were together for 8.5 years. We did have a bad breakup in between and stuff where I did keep, catch him cheating, but he did help me take care of my children and stuff. He loved doing them. He was really good to them and stuff, and was like a father figure because, especially to my youngest two, um, because their father wasn't around. Like, you know, after I was clearly over, his way of punishing me was not to take care of his kids.
Of
So
course.
yeah, of course.
Which ain't really punishment, because at least I ain't got to deal with your foolishness.
How I looked at it, I do not care.
I could clearly do this by myself.
I do not care. So yeah, and you weren't working anyway, so you weren't helping me financially anyway. So
Anyways, what were
so
you, sir? What were you bringing to the table
I'm
besides
bringing.
drama?
Yeah, so
Lord,
I had a full like 4 almost 5 year good run and stuff with my ex fiance. We were together. We're very happy. Um, but life be lifing, and we had a bad patch in between, and I caught him cheating, like on a whole cheaters type of thing. Because I'm a whole private investigator.
well, one thing we can
So
do is investigate some stuff.
listen, yeah, so we had a breakup for about 6 months, and we did get back together. Um, I ended up moving into another house that we had got together. Um, and it was good for a little while after that again, but then I caught him cheating again. Yeah. Like closer when we were like really seriously about planning the wedding and stuff like that, so after that I was done, but at that time I finished college because I had to stop start several times for the last 2 years that I was in. It took me almost like 6 years almost to finish, something like that, between 6 and 7 years. um Yeah, I changed professions. I left the IRS during that recession of '08, and I got into mental health profession, and that was really rewarding to me. Helping other people, mentally and physically challenged and disadvantaged, and so I was doing that, and after the relationship with my ex-fiance, I think that I just was not fully healed, just from all past traumas, and just with him, that relationship really did a doozy on me, like emotionally. Like I really thought that was the love of my life. He was my real first, real true love. Um, and so it just devastated me, and I kind of spiraled out, I think, after that. Um, where I just was picking one abusive relationship after another. Like they would turn out to be good guys at first, and then one guy, he just was not treating me well. He ended up breaking my nose.
What?
Yeah, we got into an argument, and he ended up punching me in my face and broke my nose and busted my lip, and we got into this big fight. I beat him up, but you know.
Was that the first time he put his hands on you?
Mhm. Mhm.
Wow.
Uh,
So there were no signs of physical abuse, but that one big fight, and breaks your nose.
he punched me just straight. Get him. Mhm. I ended up leaving him, got into another relationship, um, not healed, pretty jumped to another relationship. He turned out he was very good for almost 2 years. We were together 4 years, and he was very supportive. I had started my business at that time. I had finished college. Um, and I thought, okay, well, this has to be it. You know, he was supportive through a lot of things in the first 2 years. So I'm like, okay. But when I started my business, that's when all hell broke loose. He didn't the control. First, he was gun ho about it, and then it switched to, I guess, when he seen how serious I was about it, and it wasn't just a hobby or something like that. It switched to, why do I have to go to these networking events, and I'm going to be around guys, and why do I have to be talking to men, looking them in the eyes and in their face, and so I, try to invite him to, the networking events and stuff to try to, get him involved and stuff. I'm like, you can't promote your business and be looking down at the ground. I mean, you have to be confident in yourself and be talking to people and let them know what your brand is, who you are, and stuff. Like what you're saying makes no sense. Then he went from that to, well, I only want you selling your products to women. I'm like, that's just stupid. I went from that where I've seen that he was trying to control me, and I'm like, listen, that's not going to happen. This is, a passion of mine. This is the way it's going to be. I really want you to be supportive, and um, that's when the other side came out, where he just got very abusive, started choking me. Yeah, being verbally abusive, calling me a whore, saying I was probably cheating on him. It just got worse and worse and worse.
This is
And
the sad part about these situations, because that was like 2 years. You're not after 2 years, you're not expecting this.
um,
But when I tell you, people's insecurities will destroy everything.
he wouldn't let nobody else disrespect me, like at all. Like he would go off, and maybe that was a sign, a red flag, where he would just go overkill if somebody else disrespect me. And I seen an angry side to him, but I was like, well, it's not directed towards me, so maybe, you know,
Mm.
he's not. But maybe in retrospect, looking at how sometimes it was over the top when other people would just do minor things, I'm not gonna let nobody disrespect you, and go, he start going crazy. So, um, yeah, it got, it got bad, and I ended up leaving him, and, um, it got volatile to the point where he finally, I guess, felt comfortable enough, and my kids were in another room, and they're like teenagers at this time. And he started abusing me while we were in the room, while we were having an argument. And that was the final straw for me. I was like, no, not with my kids is around in the home and stuff. But even after that, he stalked me for 2 years.
2 years?
Years, 2 years.
Like this is what I can't comprehend. And I'm clearly understanding that there's nothing about the way that they think that I can comprehend. I get it. I get it. But your actions are telling me you don't want me. I am less than nothing to you. So when I'm gone and I'm no longer your headache, why the freak are you following? Like, why are you following me? Why you got to be in my life like that? We not
I
what we
think, I mean, he still wanted the relationship. It was just over because he just couldn't control his anger anymore. He just was too on this kick of I was cheating on him or I wanted to be with other guys because I wanted to have my own business and my own independence and have something that I love. He just could not understand that. He just or didn't want to understand it. He just didn't want to not have that control over me. And you try to even say, well, it's me or the business. I'm like, it's my business. This is how I make my
I
money. This is how I want to leave a legacy for my. Yeah, bye. Nobody's ever going to make me choose between me just growing and self-sustaining myself and taking care of my kids. And I don't know what men be thinking that, but I'm not it. Never been it. And so, yeah, bye.
and it's always
And
to
then
the
pretty much after that, sorry, go ahead.
it's always to the woman who like it's the man who want to give you an ultimatum for it. Well, it's either your success or me. That's always with a woman that's always going to choose her success. Like because a woman that's not on that wavelength, that they can throw that ultimatum and they're going to choose the guy because they're not on the wavelength of thinking success. I can do this. They don't have the confidence to believe in themselves enough that they can do something. But the audacity for you to think that I could clearly start my own thing without you and it be booming without you, and you think I'm giving up for you, especially after you don't abuse me. But anyways, we clearly just it's just the lost screws.
Yeah.
That's all. It's just lost screws. I'm gonna start calling them lost screws. I ain't calling them homeboy no more. I'm like, hey, so your lost screw.
Oh,
Gosh.
I've encountered a
Okay.
lot of,
So he gives you
but
the
I
ultimatum. You
mean,
like, well, bye.
and so this is where my business really starts thriving. My first um 2 years, I kind of just did like a lot of groundwork and um testing things out at my job, taking things to my job and having them taste test things, having my son, um, who's diabetic, taste testing because I wanted to make more health conscious pastries for him to be able to take for school and stuff like that. And so I really hit the ground running. And I went to school for business management with a concentration in marketing. And so I'm like, I'm going to do this. I'm going to implement all the stuff that I learned and really do this and be gung ho about it. And I said, within 5 years, most businesses fail. I'm going to do this thing in 3. And I did it in 3. And by the time 3 years was in, my business was highly successful. I was in magazines. I was like, had a lot of contracts downtown and, politicians. I was everywhere, anywhere I could be at in Philly, networking and doing my thing. I was doing it. Um, Yeah, I was getting notoriety, excuse me, notoriety everywhere. I was single. I was like, I don't want to be in a relationship. I was dating here and there. I had long-term people I was dating, but I wasn't like in a full-fledged like relationship and stuff, not claiming anybody. But um, yeah, but pretty much I was single and I was enjoying my time. I was the happiest I've ever been in a long time. Body was nice, tea, everything. I was just like living it up, and that brought me up to like 2018. I actually established an event called the Date and Bake Experience, where I
Mm,
was teaching individuals and couples how to make elegant desserts from scratch, kind of like baking with a twist.
mm-hmm.
Um, and it was sold out event every time I would do it. So everything was like really booming at that time. And in 2019, in December, I met my ex-husband. Um, I'm at the height of my career. Just went full-time entrepreneur the year before, 2018. So I was able to quit my 9 to 5, and then 2019, I thought I met the love of my life. It was a whirlwind relationship, I would say. I did a lot of my healing at that time, so I thought I was like ready to do this. I know the red flags. I'm not going through none of this stuff no more. I'm done. You know, I'm good. And COVID hit literally 3 months into us dating. And so I had my own place and I was close to downtown, and I was like, well, he had 2 younger kids. Yeah, 2 younger kids. And so I was like, well, maybe we can do like Zoom dating, da 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 da, and just kind of keep it like that. And he was like, no, I don't want to be away from you. Da, da, da. I'm like, well, I can't keep on going back and forth because I don't know. We didn't know how this thing was being spread. I can't do that. I still see my grandkids at the time. My daughter had my grandson at the time. And I was just like, I can't keep on going back and forth. So we have to make a decision. So I was like, well, at first I'll just bring some clothes, over there. And so I was pretty much staying over there. Oh, yeah, all the time. And so eventually we kind of like, well, I was still kind of going back and forth, but not as much. But I was just like, we kind of had, when they did the complete shutdown, I was like, okay, we really need to make a decision here. Like, what are we doing and stuff? And I was like, I need to go back home because now this is getting serious. People like dying, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So he was like, no, I want you to leave. I want you to stay with me. Da, da, da. And I'm like, well, I know he couldn't leave his house because he was a full-time dad. And had his 2 young girls. So I was like, all right, well, I'll move in. So I left my place, moved in with him, and we dated for a year while we lived together. He proposed after the first year. We planned the wedding the second year. Everything was amazing. He bought me a new car. Like, I'm just thinking, he's showering me with gifts, like, which I realized, I'm looking back at everything, that it was the love bombing stage. So, listen, the first Christmas we spent together, right before he proposed like the day after my birthday. So it was Christmas. My birthday is 2 weeks after Christmas. On the 4th, he proposed on the 5th. When we went on a trip to Louisiana. So I'm thinking this is like a fairy tale, the man of my dreams. So I mean, literally, he bought me so much gifts that first Christmas. It took me like 3 to 4 hours to open up everything. My kids were sitting there and I
What?
like, that's how much stuff he bought me. And I was like, he didn't have to do all this. Like, you got to take some of this back. He was like, no, 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 I love you. I'm like, never heard of love bombing. Never, I mean,
Uh-huh.
I work in the mental health. I've heard of narcissists, but not really, there wasn't that much in-depth knowledge or talked about of being narcissists around that time. So I didn't really know anything about it. And I also took psychology in college as well. So, and I never really heard of it. They used to call it a personality disorder. They never called it narcissism. So I'm not realizing that's the stage that I'm in. And so we're planning the wedding. The second year we're together. And I'm like, okay, this is a fairy tale. I'm planning my dream wedding. Everything's just beautiful. Um, Things started getting a little shaky towards closer to the wedding. We did premarital counseling through um, a Christian couple and stuff like that. So I'm thinking I'm doing all the things right and stuff like that, making sure everything's, we're on the same playing field with everything, the foundation, everything and stuff like that. Everything is fine with his family. His family seems to love me. Da, 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 da. It gets to 1 month before the wedding, and all of a sudden his mom and his sister starts acting a complete nut job at my bridal shower. That's where it starts. And it literally goes downhill from the marriage down.
So what
So we're
did they
together
do at the
for,
bridal shower?
well, right before we get to the bridal shower, my best friend at the time that I knew since sixth grade, she goes to the bridal shower for me along with my other friend. Um, my daughter booked a party bus for me and my friends and bridesmaids, and they were supposed to meet me at my house and stuff. But a lot of people just chose to go to the venue and stuff for the brunch. And so I'm calling his sister because everything was a surprise for me. So I didn't know who was coming to the house, who wasn't, who was riding with me. So I called his sister and I said, "Hey, are you supposed to be getting on the bus? Or are you coming here and stuff?" And she was like, "Oh, no, I'm going straight to the venue because I'm leaving work." So I'm like, "Okay, well, I didn't want the bus to leave you because the bus is getting ready to leave soon and stuff. But if you were on your way, I was gonna ask them to stay. I didn't know who was supposed to come here." So everything seemed fine. I mean, his sister, younger, she's like around my daughter's age, 28 at the time, something like that, 27. And so I looked at her as like little sis, you know. So everything was fine. We get to the venue. She's one of my bridesmaids because I wanted to incorporate, you know, some of his family in the wedding. And I'm like, where's so and so at? You know, I don't want to say her name. We call her Kelsey. And and no Kelsey. So I start asking his mom. I'm saying, "Hey, you know, where's Kelsey at?" She was like, "Oh, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know." I'm like, "Well, can you call her?" I'm like, "The photographer's here. I want all the girls, my bridesmaids, to take pictures." Because I mean, we had like a um tea party theme and stuff, the fascinators, all that. You know what I mean? I wanted everybody to be in the pictures and stuff. And I'm like, "Where is she at? Is she okay? I just talked to her like an hour ago. Like, I don't know. I don't know." So my best friend is like, "What is going on?" I'm like, "I don't know where Kelsey is at." I said, "Can you like figure it out where her mom and stuff like that?" You know, I kind of want to entertain my friends and stuff. And she was like, "Yeah." She was like, "Well, there's not much more time for the photographer because she was like this high-end photographer and she was spending all this money on her." She was like, she was only staying for like another half an hour at that time. So I'm like, "Oh my God." So I'm thinking like something must have happened and she's stuck in traffic or something like something. So she's trying to figure it out with her mom, like, "Where's Kelsey at?" She was like, "I don't know." I'm like, "Well, my friend is like, "Can you call her?" Her mom is acting like she didn't want to call her. So we're trying to figure out like kind of what's going on. And then finally the photographer is like, "I gotta go." So she's leaving. I'm just like, "Oh well, I'm not even like caring about it." Me and my friends are talking. We're all huddled up at one end of the table, getting ready to take shots and stuff like that. And then we take shots and we're talking. And then out of the corner of my eye, I seen his sister all the way at the end of the other table, like through the flower bouquets and stuff like that. And I'm like, "Is that Kelsey there? When,
I'm
when the
so
hell did she
sorry. I'm
I,
just because you painting the picture. He's like, I see her at the other end of the table through the top of it. I know that ain't
listen,
who I think.
yeah. Listen, it is like a whole soap opera story. You can't make it up. So I'm like, "Wait a minute, when did she even get here? When did she come?" Like she came in, didn't speak, she didn't acknowledge me, she didn't say nothing like, "Hey, I'm sorry, I'm late. This is what happened." Like nothing. So I'm like, "What the hell? Something's got to be wrong." You know what I mean? But it's out of concern for me. You know what I mean? So I told my friends, "Hold on, I'm gonna walk down there and see what's going on," because she's sitting next to her mom. So I was like, "Hey, like Kelsey, are you okay? Like, what's going on? Like, we just missed the photographer. She just left. I wanted to make sure everybody was in the pictures and stuff." And she just sitting there with her arms crossed like this. And I'm like, did you hear me? Are you okay?" Because she's not saying anything. And I'm like, "What's wrong?" You know, I'm kind of whispering. I'm like hunched over her. I'm like, are you okay? What's wrong?" And she's like, and I'm like, are you okay?" Listen, all of a sudden she jumps up right in front of me, like in my face, like this. and says, I don't got time for this mess. I don't got time for this drama. I'm like instantly jump back because through all the experiences I've had with domestic violence and stuff like that, I have like a certain level of PTSD, like people coming into my personal space. And so I didn't know what was happening. I'm just like jump back and I said, whoa, 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 like what is going on here? Are you okay? Like I was still concerned. Like, are you okay? Like, are you having some type of mental breakdown? Like, what is going on? And so I see that this is like some dramatic performance she's putting on. It eventually just clicks like, I lean in because she's like, I don't have time for this. Da, da, da. And I said, whoa, whoa, whoa. And I lean in. I said, I don't know what's going on with you, but I ain't the one. And you can't do it here. Not on my day, you're not. She said, what did you say to me? I said, you heard exactly what I said. And then her mom kind of like grabbed her arm and pulled her to sit down, like, come on, Kelsey, just sit down, and stuff. And I kind of just looked like, what in the hell? Everybody's kind of looking like, what the hell is going on? And so I come back to the other end of the table, and he was like, what is going on? I said, I don't know. I'm about to give a speech and give like all my bridesmaids these gift bags that I made them and stuff. I went all out for my bridesmaids. So I'm just like, trying to get my bearings, and I'm just like, okay, well, maybe she's just something happening, having a bad day. I didn't even, still didn't take it to heart yet. And so I'm like, well, all right, well, I'm about to give out, a speech and talk about each one of my friends and how much they mean to me and give them these gift bags and stuff. They have nice robes in there that said bridesmaids. I had got them all either diamond necklaces or diamond bracelets. Like I went all out like for them. Like, yeah, and other stuff that I had in there. So I'm giving each of them, I'm doing a speech and telling them how much mean to me. And so I got to her all the way at the end. And I actually walked down there and I said, hey, I want to give you this gift, me being, you being a part of my family and us coming together, as like little sis and stuff like that, I appreciate you and try to like still bring it home, with the love and everything like that. I hope this gift warms up your day and makes your day a little bit better. I don't know what you've been going through, but I hope that this brings a smile to your face and still came with love. So she takes the gift. She don't say thank you, nothing. She's still just sitting there with the bag like this. And I'm just like, okay, I don't know what is happening here. So the show still goes on. We get to cutting the cake, and I'm cutting the cake. They take a picture of me cutting the cake. I'm acting like I'm looking like whatever. His mom is looking like whatever, like oh, like. And so I noticed. I turned my back, and I was like, "Well, who wants cake and stuff?" And then I realized Kelsey is not sitting in her chair no more, but my gift bag is still sitting there. So I'm thinking when she must have been to the bathroom, and I was just like, "Oh, where's Kelsey at?" And stuff. Did she go to the bathroom and stuff? Well, I'm just gonna put a piece of cake here for her, and then somebody hollers out, no, she just went out the door. She just left. And I'm
So
like, what?
out the blue, wait. So
What?
you call before all this even happens, you call, she's on board clearly to be at the bridal shower. And she was like, it didn't sound like anything was wrong in her voice. I'll just meet y'all there. Then she
Mhm.
shows up. Whenever she pop up in there, she pop up in there with a whole attitude, and you have no idea what's happening. Is she bipolar? I mean, I'm not saying that to be, funny or anything. Like, does she have a mental disorder?
I believe so. Yeah. I think she is. Well, I think most of his family are narcissists. His mom is a raging narcissist, which I find out later, and his sister. Yeah. And she beats on her
Right.
boyfriend as well.
Oh
She's abusive and beats
man.
on. So I'm like, what? She left? I said, you got to be kidding me. And my friend was like, no, she just walked out the door. And I was like, okay. So I see the gift bag sitting on the chair. I said, I went to go grab the gift bag. I said, well, I guess this is mine now. Like, I'm not giving you diamonds and stuff. Like, are you crazy? Like, now you're not even gonna be in my wedding. Like, I'm good, you know. And I went to go grab the bag. Her mom tried to snatch the bag out of my hand. And she was like, oh, I'm going to see her later. Oh, I'm going to see her boyfriend later. He's supposed to come to my house to fix up some stuff for me. So I'll just give it to him. I said, hell no. And I snatched it out of her hand. Hell no. I said, your daughter is rude and ignorant. Do you think I'm giving her my stuff and my gift after she just acted like a complete nutcase here and didn't come on time and left and didn't say anything? You got me all the way effed up.
All the way.
All the way. So she leaves, calls my husband, soon-to-be husband at the time. He calls me and starts trying to go off on me at the bridal shower and says, what is going on? My sister left, upset, da 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 da. She said you trying to front in front of your friends and you treating her bad. I'm like, what? I said, I'm not dealing with this. My friend snatched my phone and was like, happening. Your sister, everybody's seeing what happened. She's lying. She obviously just doing this for attention. Something's seriously wrong with her. She's ignorant and rude. And said, y'all can talk about this some other time, but this is her day, her moment, and y'all not ruin this for her. And because the mom, I guess, felt embarrassed after that, she rolls, don't say nothing. She just rolls out too. And that's where everything just starts going downhill. The mom gets mad at me, starts calling him while he's at work too. So I just knew by the time he got home, we was going to have a conversation and stuff. And comes in the house and I said, yeah, I wasn't going to call you at work. I said, that's rude and ignorant to be bringing that type of stress on you while you're at work and knowing that you can't do nothing and stuff. And then have you come in the house on my day, upset and having to hear all this stuff about your family and stuff. So we talk about it. I'm telling him what happened and stuff. I said, it's video of her acting like this because people were taking videos and they're sending them to me so you can see for yourself. And you can see the speech that I did and how I still try to love on her after she jumped in my face. And he was like, So his mom decided to be mad because I embarrassed her in front of my friends and said that her daughter was ignorant. And so she calls herself being mad at me, saying that if I got a problem with her daughter, I got a problem with her too. And I said, oh, well, I guess we have a problem then. Because I don't know who y'all think y'all are, because I'm not that one. Like, I don't know if I'm supposed to be scared or something. Like, I don't know. But after all I've been through in my life,
Y'all ain't it.
like y'all don't even know. Y'all don't even know the half of it. Like I've been in the trenches. I don't care about none of that. And so we're kind of like going back with the words back and forth, and he's trying to be in the middle, supposedly. But I'm finding out this is later on. That's the whole family construct. You know what I mean? They ruin days for you and special days if it's not about them, stuff like that. They want you looped in of nothingness of whatever's going on, their jealousy, envy, and all that stuff like that. But I'm not quite catching it all at that time. I just knew it was envy and jealousy. And so his mom, 2-3 days later, randomly calls me while I was Ubering during the time during COVID. Driving my ass off, saving up for the wedding and stuff. And so she calls me and says, hey, can we talk? So I pull over. I'm like, sure. So we start talking. I'm thinking everything is fine. She was like, I don't know where this went wrong. I'm like, neither do I. I don't even know what's going on. So she just, what she pretty much wanted me to do was surrender and say, like, it was my fault. And I said, absolutely not. I'm going to say it again. Your daughter's ignorant and rude. I would never, my daughter was there, and she would never do that and act like that at an event, ever, anywhere. Like, I don't know if that's what you allow your children to do and act like, but mine can't even do that. And she's grown and she's almost 30 as well. So, and she didn't like that because I was calling her out, I guess, on her non-parenting. I said, you should be embarrassed by her behavior. She embarrassed you. You know what I mean? Like I didn't embarrass, she embarrassed you. Like I would have gripped my grown daughter up by her arm and pinched her arm and came in and was like, you better get your, or whatever, or pulled her outside and say, listen, you need to go home. If you can't get yourself together or you're not happy or whatever's going on with you, you need to go home. That's what I would have did with my child. She wouldn't embarrass me in front of everybody being there. She was like, oh, well, that's not how we are. I said, okay, well, then y'all need to keep that over there. Y'all can't do it with me. And
Do
she
y'all
didn't
make
like
it
it. And
through?
so she literally started cursing me out, cursing me out, screaming and hollering how she hates me, how she hates my bridesmaids. She don't even know none of them, but just like, how do you hate me? And just 2 days ago, you love me, supposedly, to death. Um, Yeah, she started going off on me. And then so I'm like, well, obviously, if you can't respect me and talk to me like a grown woman, we're both grown here. Like, I'm not a little kid. I'm 40 at the time, 43. Like, yeah, you're 10 years older than me. You're at the beginning part of Generation X, and I'm at the end. But I'm still Generation X, and we can get it. Like, we was gang warring. And I was just like, if you keep on disrespecting me, I'm gonna hang up on you. And she kept on screaming and cursing and hollering, so I hung up on her. And it just went down from hill from there. She didn't want to be a part of the wedding no more. She didn't want to walk down the aisle no more. She didn't want to pay for the rehearsal dinner anymore. Like it just went downhill. And so the marriage still went off without a hitch. We had a policy that once the doors were closed and nobody was going to be able to come in. It was up and down, whether her sister was coming or not, not coming, not coming up, whatever. Her boyfriend was part of the bridal party on his side. And so she should have been there already at the venue. And what happened was during the ceremony in the middle of prayer, thank God I was praying because I heard absolutely nothing. She decides to walk in. My wedding planner must have walked away from the door for a minute, or maybe she convinced her to be able to let her in. She walks down the middle of the aisle in heels and clink, 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 and walks all the way to the front to like the third row, sits down and says to her cousin, hey girl, I didn't know you was coming. For some reason, I didn't hear none of it because we were in the middle of prayer, but everybody else seen it. Everybody else heard it. Photographers caught the looks on my bridal party's faces that wanted to beat her up. I didn't know what even happened until the actual reception. Like, I was so out of it and drained and tired just from planning the wedding and everything like that. And nobody talks about how that whole experience is just like draining.
A lot of
Um,
energy.
Yeah. So I was like in a fairy tale whirlwind fog type, and things are moving just very fast. And I'm at times just sitting there at the table, just looking at everybody, just taking it in, letting them, watching them dance and have a good time. And one of my friends come over to me and Lily thought something was wrong. And I'm like, what is going on? Like, what's wrong? She was like, what's wrong? I'm like, nothing. Why? While I'm watching his sister sashay back and forth, acting like a complete nutcase at her reception, though, I'm taking it all in. She comes in this party dress, it's like all the way up and almost to the right under her butt with the side cut off type of dress, not looking like even like she's going to a wedding. She looked like she was going to a club. So she's pulling down her dress all evening, sashaying back and forth, not wanting nobody to talk to her man. Anytime anybody got close, she's flinging her arms, flinging her hair, like just like she's in a soap opera or something. Like this is like the land of make believe or something. So I'm watching her all night, but I'm just like too tired to like really take it in. But I'm just like, okay. Mm-hmm. His mom gets so drunk, she falls back out her chair, busts her head on the floor. Yeah, and thought nobody saw, but I saw, and my mom saw, and her daughter tries to pick her up and like look around and make sure nobody saw. And so I'm telling my husband at the time, like, go check your mom. Your mom literally just bust her head on the floor. He was like, what? She all right? I'm like, no, she not all right. Like the junk went like boing, like she's fucked up over here. And he was like, oh, she always does that. And I'm like, what?
What?
So right then it would click like, okay, this is a pattern. This must be a pattern. And seeing his mom drunk, you know what I mean, doing stuff like this type of behavior in their family. I'm like, oh God. But I was like, go over there and look, check on her. So he did, whatever. But that's when it really started clicking for me, like, are all their true colors really just coming out now?
Mm-mm.
Yeah. And so my friend was like, swore I was like getting ready to kill somebody. And she was like, are you okay? And I'm like, yeah, why does everybody come on asking me if I was okay? Because they seeing her sassy around, act a fool. My sisters want to beat her up. My friends want to beat her up, drag her out of there. I'm like, absolutely not. We're in this high-end hotel. Do you really think that her family's gonna let her sit here and get beat up? It's gonna be a whole free for all up in here, and we're gonna get kicked out. Like that's what's gonna happen, you know. But my friend was like, "Well, are you mad because of what she did at the wedding, at the actual ceremony?" And I'm like, "What did she do?" And it was like, she was like, "You saw her?" I'm like, "What?" She was like, "Well, never mind." I was like, "No, no, no. What happened?" And she was like, "You ain't see her walk down the aisle and come in the middle of your prayer?" I said, "No." She was like, "Oh no, never mind. I don't want to say no more." I said, "Oh hell no. Tell me what happened." So she tells me, and I said, Right then, I'm done with you. I'm good. I'm done with you. Yeah. So I feel as though it was all planned. And when we go up to our wedding room at the end of the night, I pretty much say what happens and kind of recap. And I said, your daughter and your mom, I mean, your sister and your mom can't be around me. Like, I'm done. Yeah, I'm done. It's the most disrespect that I've had in a long time. Like, on the one day that you can never get back. And yeah, I'm done. And that's pretty much where the downhill of our marriage started happening.
Yeah, because I mean, you're at that point now, the families that are supposed to be men together are being torn apart,
Yeah.
and he has more loyalty to them because I mean, y'all got
Yeah.
2 years in the game, maybe at this point, if that. And it's
Yeah.
COVID and like all this stuff is going on. So how long did y'all stay married? And was it always the friction between you and his sister and mother that caused the rip? Or did he start changing or start showing you not
Both.
the okay.
So the first year we were, I would say, still very much in love. He was trying to convince me to be around him and stuff. I said, absolutely not. They didn't want to apologize. They didn't want to bring it up. They wanted to just act like it was the past. It's water under the bridge. This one, they're used to sweeping that type of behavior under the rug, and everybody get back together and act like everything's okay and tee heating up and all that stuff. All the talking about each other and all that stuff and backbiting. I don't have time for that. Like I already escaped all that type of behavior at that time before I got married. I hadn't talked to my mom in 5 years. Um, I only invited her to the wedding because I wanted my stepdad to walk me down the aisle, and I knew he wouldn't come if my mom didn't come, wasn't invited. So before that, like I left all that toxicity. So I was like, I'm not dealing with none of this. Like I will support you on some things, on some family functions, and support you and come as your wife, but I don't have no words for them. Like, what are we talking about here? Without no apology or nothing like that, no acknowledgement of behavior, we don't have nothing to talk about. Besides me saying hi to everybody, they better not say nothing to me. Like, literally. And he just couldn't handle that. He couldn't have enough backbone to support me and make sure that I was respected in a certain way and actually set those boundaries. And he was probably afraid of losing his family and stuff if he picked a side and all that stuff like that. And I'm telling him, like, when you take on a wife, I mean, based on the doctrines of especially Christianity that we both follow and stuff like that, once you take on your wife, that is your new family. Your wife comes first before anything and anybody. And he just couldn't understand that. And he wanted me to bend and just fold? And I said, absolutely not, because that would be setting the precedence for anything other disrespect. And I said, this will be the first and the last time, because trust and believe. I said, me and your mom, we both grown. I would smack out of her and beat your sister up. Like, this will be the first and the last time. If you think it's ever going to happen again, y'all all got something coming to y'all. And I meant that. I meant it. So if you think that they're going to do it again, why would you want me to be around them? Because it's going to happen. It's going to happen, and it's not going to end well. And the last year of marriage of 2023, it literally was like a progression of just downhill. We're constantly trying to save the marriage. I had moved out some of half of my stuff, I think, in May of 2023. We had tried marriage counseling again. We tried going on trips, to fix the marriage and everything like that. And just as the year progressed, his behavior just got worse and worse and worse towards me. The abuse, narcissistic abuse, the gaslighting started picking up more. He was just being very mean, verbally mean to me. I noticed that he was possibly even testing me when it came to like the physical abuse. One time he purposely tried to burn the bottom of my feet. He used to wear suits to work or whatever. And he used to like bang, like hang his suits on this door near my side of the bed, closet door, to steam them and stuff. And then he would slam the steamer on my ankles if I was still asleep in the morning, because my schedule is whatever I wanted to make it. You know what I mean? Because I'm full-time entrepreneur. So he didn't like that I didn't always have to get up in the morning if I didn't want to. Sometimes I would get up and help him with the girls for school or help pack his lunch and stuff. And sometimes I was just totally tired. You know what I mean? I'm working 12 to 16 hours a day running my business and Ubering on the side and stuff like that, and helping take care of your children and stuff, doing all this stuff when all my children are grown at this time. So all those responsibilities are done for me. And so I noticed he was doing that. And then one time he left the steamer at the bottom of my feet, facing my bottom of my feet. And I woke up screaming, thinking I was on fire or something. And because my feet were burning, because he said, oh, I did it by accident, but he was standing right there watching it. Yeah. And I was like, jumped up and I was like, you ever do that, any abuse to me again, like I'm gonna bash you over the head with this steamer. Like, and he never did it again. I think he started having an affair with his youngest children's mother. And then I started feeling the energy of another woman, which is the woman that he just recently married a couple of days ago. Yeah, so he was having an affair with two women at least. And it just was like a progression of just downhill. And by the end of 2023, I moved out completely and he filed for divorce 2 days after Thanksgiving. We were fighting like cats and dogs on Thanksgiving Day because I wouldn't go to dinner, Thanksgiving dinner. Yeah. And
so now that
we still were.
Because at this, like, y'all don't have kids together, like your separation is, unless you trying to be there for his children, which they clearly have a mom, the separation is really all that needed to happen. The divorce, there shouldn't be anything that's tying y'all together. So now that you're out of that marriage and that situation, like, how are you feeling in regards to just you? Like, here you are now, your children are grown, like all of the hardship that you've been through, all of the, by any means necessary, you're in a space now where you have a thriving, healthy business, you have yourself, you don't have the responsibility of trying to cater to anybody else's emotional needs and all of the foolishness that can come with it. What is your life now?
Well, you would think that would be that easy.
Joke's on me.
So So because I didn't come back, we did try to somewhat talk a little bit. I was coming to still pick up my mail up until like March or April of last year. The last time we were physically together was like 2 days after Valentine's Day in February. And we did dissolve. We made an agreement on the car that he had bought me, and I was going to take over payments and insurance and stuff. So we did a notarized agreement on that. And then we also started a nonprofit, which is Tiny Bakers. It's a baking program for children that I started, and both of our names were on that program. And so we dissolved the partnership, and so now that's solely mine. So we only had a few assets together, and we dissolved everything. And I thought everything was going to be amicable, and that we can just kind of like figure things out. But as the relationship actually was like dissolving in 2023, I realized that this whole situation was a little bit more sinister than I ever thought. I was later finding out things that he was doing behind the scenes, that he actually went in cahoots with my mom and my sister on financially abusing me. I found out later that because it was COVID and I wasn't using my credit, that while we were on our honeymoon, that he put 8 trade line credit cards under my business in my name. He also fraudulently changed my name on my credit report. He added a middle initial, which I don't have a middle name, and he put hyphen Brown. And I never got around to fully changing my last name. So he was committing fraud under my name. I think he also, I started getting really sick. We had tried for a year and a half to have a baby. And I found out also too that I was pregnant as I was leaving. He acted like he didn't care. He said, well, we're not together. So let me know if the baby survives.
What?
Because we had miscarriages before. And also realized that he was poisoning me.
What? Whoa.
He was trying to, he was poisoning me.
Like putting stuff in your food?
In my tea, yeah. Possibly in my food too, but definitely in my tea.
He was making the tea for you, or you had just made the tea and then at some point you would walk away from the
He was making it for me. I was getting really sick during that time. I was running to the bathroom, throwing up all the time, had bad diarrhea. But when found I was pregnant, I thought maybe that was some of the symptoms, and that's what it was, because I'm older now. But one day I seen all this white stuff kind of floating in my tea, and I was like, "What is this?" Because I'm an avid tea drinker. I started watching him and paying real close to his behavior. Actually, March of 2023. I actually got a premonition. I'm actually a seer, prophetic seer, and I got this dream out of nowhere. And the dream was he was on the phone with somebody, and the dream was that he was on the phone with somebody. I couldn't really pick up the voice of who he was talking to on the phone. And it was like, is the plan still the plan? And he was like, yeah, the plan is still the plan. It was like, well, it seems like you're falling in love with her. He's like, no, I ain't falling. I'm not in love with her. The plan is still the plan. And he was like, good. He was like, we're about to get this money. And he was like, yeah. And ever since then, my eyes popped open at 3:30 in the morning, and I was like, oh my God. And that's usually how I get all my premonitions in my dreams. And ever since then, I was watching him, all his behavior and stuff. And that's how I realized that he was possibly trying to poison me. And that's when his behavior was really ramped up with the abuse, narcissistic abuse. I later found out about the financial stuff or whatever when I went to go get another car. He told me that he agreed that he would let me trade in the car. use that as collateral for the trade-in and stuff. And I was finding out, realizing that they were, even with the collateral with the car, they were still saying that, I would still have to put money down. And I'm like, why? I have good credit, like I haven't used my credit, what is going on? So eventually I asked one of the dealers to send me my report. And that's when I found out that he had all those credit cards under my name and that they hadn't been paid in 48 months. And that he opened them up while we were on our honeymoon. We got married on the 6th, and those accounts were opened on the 11th. And we were on our honeymoon for a week.
So, okay, because did you ever go get tested or your teeth tested or whatever to confirm what he was using?
The only thing that was white, because I was like, hey, what is this? Because I'm an avid tea drinker, but I only use honey. So I know I had just bought honey. And I was like, did you use honey? He was like, no, I can't find it. I don't think we have any more. I said, well, I think I just bought some when I went to the market like a couple of days ago. I think he threw it in the trash. He was like, well, I put sugar. And I was like, well, I don't eat sugar like that. Like, even though I make sweets, I don't really eat sugar like that. So I was like, well, why don't you tell me before you put it in there and stuff? I said, well, is that what this white stuff is? He was like, oh, yeah, maybe it didn't dissolve all the way. Because I don't use sugar, but now asking other people that do put sugar, they said, no, it dissolves, it fizzles and goes away. And I was like, well, this was floating. And the only thing I could think of that was around at that time was mouse poison, like during the wintertime we would get, influx of mice or whatever, and that would be under the kitchen sink, the boric acid stuff. And it was getting so bad to the point like I would be out running errands around my house, and my daughter didn't live too far, and neither did my two sons. My two youngest sons shared an apartment. I would have to run to their house sometimes to go to the bathroom because I couldn't make it to the bathroom. Or sometimes he was like giving me the tea and I was really throwing up right afterwards.
So you say you thought that this was, you say you thought that it was tied to you being pregnant. So you went to the doctor, found out you were pregnant. And what happens? Like, how long do you have? Are you carrying the baby? Did they like, well, no, what your experience, it ain't got nothing to do with this child?
Once I left the house completely, I wasn't having those symptoms subsided. My stomach wasn't hurting anymore and stuff like that. And I was kind of putting pieces together. Like, even though we were talking, I think my mind was just still like foggy from the narcissistic like abuse and stuff, because it really damages your nervous system and your brain. The way they constantly, the gaslighting and the manipulation and all that stuff, like it makes you like constantly second guess who you are as a person, your whole concept of being, my
All that.
safety, you know what I mean? I was paranoid in a way. I didn't know what was real, what was fake. And I was just really watching everything that was going down. I was still in love with him. So I'm like, okay, well, maybe I'm tripping, you know what I mean? But once I like completely was breaking away from him and stuff, things just started coming in more clearly. He was stalking me. He had his neighbors start stalking me. He still stalks me to this very day. He just got married a couple of days ago, Friday, and he has started stalking my daughter. He's like a computer geek genius, and he literally hacked into her career link account and was redirecting jobs and stuff and emails, and she screenshotted to me an email address that he was using under her account, and she just had to get that whole account wiped out. He just tried to follow a fake page that he made up with his aunt's information and just try to follow me on TikTok just 3 weeks ago. Yeah, he was stalking me. I believe he was trying to get somebody to kill me. Like it was serious, like for insurance money. He went around in the community, the business community that we're both in, slandering my name, slandering my business, lying and saying that all my concepts was his. He even had on his LinkedIn page that he was the executive director of my business, and that we met in March of 2019, and that he was the executive director since March of 2019, when we didn't even meet until December of 2019.
Boy, they love a title though, don't they? They love to
I was just
present
finding out
themselves.
fraudulent in a lot of, yeah, I think, yeah. I have a whole list of fraudulent stuff that he was doing behind my back. When I found out about the credit stuff, I immediately went and filed a police report. And because he was stalking me, him and his new wife now, but at the time his mistress, they were stalking me, riding past my old apartment, to the point I had to move where I was at now and be incognito, and couldn't be around my kids for a whole year last year. Pretty much almost half into this year. Um, and so because they wouldn't issue me a stalking restraining order because they said I didn't have enough proof, they denied it. And so I literally went up the street and filed a report with the DA's office. So we have an open case with the police department and the DA's office for stalking, fraud, attempted murder. Yeah. But I have come out on the other side, though. Again,
Yet
through all
another
this,
and the last time. You hear me?
and the very last time, the very last time. This is all
God.
gave through three spiritual awakenings, and this is the most traumatic one I've ever been through. My spiritual gifts are like on this all-time high of peaks. Like I see all type of things that other people just don't see. I hear things. I just know. I just know. And I brought my business back from hell because he tried to destroy it. He tried to snatch everything that I built for the last 10 years. Try to ruin my credibility and my name and everything like that. And I just pushed past it. I blocked, disowned everybody, everybody, and just been pushing through, building my business all the way back up, and my brand. I recently graduated last week from the Airport Concession Academy.
Yay! Confetti, 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 confetti! Wow. Go on, girl. What?
um, Yep. I've hired a whole new team, business partners, and I'm also in the process of opening my regular brick and mortar. So my proposal for the airport will be for the end of 2026. And in the meantime, I'll be opening up my regular brick and mortar by the end of this year. So
That's
I'm back.
phenomenal.
Yep, I'm back. I'm about to bring out my second book. And I've just been getting interviews left and right. A lot of new doors are opening for me. All the business people that took sides and all that stuff I left behind, and I'm starting over new. Right.
There you go. That's what I mean, that's life right there. Starting over new. You make wrong decisions, wrong turns. Keep trying till we get it right. So what advice do you have for anyone who's currently experiencing narcissistic abuse, or think, I don't know, they might think they are, like what do you have to say to them?
Hmm. Follow your gut instinct. If it doesn't feel right, it's not right. I was constantly second guessing my gut. Um, every time I would, confront things, he would always like, no, you're just tripping. No, you're too emotional. No, he was calling me too much. You're just too much. You're just too extra. Just always making me doubt my own intuition. Um, it's there for a reason, especially for women. And it's never wrong, ever. If it ain't doesn't feel right, it's not right. and get out. Don't stay. They will try to make your life a living hell, like literally, like literally. And there is light after darkness. You can overcome anything, anything. Um, and God has the final say. Nobody has control over your life but God and
You are
yourself.
living proof.
Yeah.
You are living
So
proof. So I just want to say, one, y'all heard what she said. She said, lock in to you, because so many times we miss out on the opportunity to avoid certain situations because we don't follow that gut, that small voice inside of us that's saying, just don't do it. Don't do it. So make sure that you listen to that small voice, because it's there to save you from things you were never supposed to experience in the first place. But y'all, I told you I ain't know what we was getting into today. All I knew was something told me you need to have a helmet on, some knee pads, ankle, hey, whatever, to protect everything, because it was gonna be a bumpy ride. And that's exactly what it was. I just want to thank our beautiful sis for showing up, for sharing her love, for shining her light, for being open, honest, and transparent about all of the things that she has experienced and what it has been and how it has impacted her life. And we just hope and pray, and we know and believe that her sharing her story is going to be helpful to somebody somewhere. We know it's going to reach the right people. So my sister, Suadamani, thank you, girl, for showing up, sharing your love, shining your light, and being a voice for people to know that there is light after darkness. There is joy on the other side of pain. You just got to hang in there and start working towards healing from the inside out and understanding your true value and your true confidence. Y'all know what it is. Woo! It's been another good one, another bumpy one, but we hung in there, and it's going to be a great one. It's going to be a great day. You got a great life. You still alive. So in the meantime, in between time, while y'all out here showing up, sharing love, and shining your light, go be great. Until next week, we gone.